sports, and politics. Get ready to rumble! You wanna talk smack? You in the right place. So take a step back before I get all up in your
remember, because I don't remember. I remember every bit of this.
The other dudes holding on the phone line. Your voice will be heard, sir.
Next caller, please.
Derek's gonna get him.
Fantasy, sports, and politics. Fantasy, sports, and politics. Fantasy, sports, and politics. Fantasy, sports, and politics.
Listeners are asking questions about this week's games, not Jerry's personal beef. So what's your thought?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Fantasy Sports and Politics. It's me, Mr. FSP, doing what I do because I do it for you all day, every day. That's that tongue twister, micro machine man intro. With one breath, by the way. I want to welcome you to the show. It's going to be a pretty good show. I believe it is. Week 14 in the NFL is looking like it's going to be chaotic and hectic. I'll say this. Excuse me, week 15. I got to rename the show because I got on the wrong week. I'll say this. Matter of fact, I'm editing it right now. I can't edit the name. Oh well, it is what it is. I'll fix it in post, as we say. The NFL schedulers are funny. Ha ha ha. Very funny. They take some of the top players in the NFL and their teams, people that you know, or you just have a gut feeling are going to be fantasy studs that year, and put them on bye week 14. Knowing that is the last week folks have a chance to make the playoffs. Then week 15, which is this week, there are matchups that are extremely difficult and then some that aren't. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to talk about it today. I'm not going to say I'm a victim of it because I'm not a victim. But I will say this. I wanted to make a move, but I said, no, I can't. The matchup is just too good. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the NFL schedule as well. No real big news outside of the Heisman Trophy winner will be announced today. Outside of that, college bowl games, man. The college playoff. I'm not going to get too deep into the news that Antonio Pierce might not return after 1 year as the head coach of the Raiders. That was tumultuous at best. He hasn't been fired yet, but there's a statement. I know we're going to talk about Bill Belichick, Chris. Man, this dude right here, he wants to talk about his bestie or one of his besties going to UNC. We can talk about it. Like I said, there's not much big news in the NFL this week, but that is kind of big, and we'll get to it. Right now, got somebody waiting, and I'll bring them on. Here we go. Mr. Taylor.
Why am I? Oh, there he is.
Welcome to my show. And Chris, since he brought it up, I wasn't going to talk about it right away, but this is a guy that's in your age bracket that is just as stubborn, but the word was he wanted X amount of dollars, and that's why NFL franchises shied away from him. And he signs a deal that's $30 million over 3 years, so that's $10 million a year. At the college level, he's 72, I believe. And that's not young. That's not innovative. That's not fresh. But he brings with him 8 Super Bowl rings. 6 as a head coach, 2 as a assistant head coach, defensive coordinator. Now, my opinion, I'll let you give yours in a second. My opinion is he's going to have the Deion Sanders effect. Some people, Chris included, because he's a Belichick guy. And we're talking about Bill Belichick, who just agreed yesterday, I think he signed the contract yesterday, to become the University of North Carolina football head coach. After, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years in the NFL at some level, in some capacity. And what I mean by him having the Deion Sanders effect is, you want to play defense? You want to be a team known as someone not easy to score on? Go to UNC. You want to be coached as a quarterback by the guy that picked and then hard coached, arguably, the best quarterback in NFL history, Tom Brady. You go to UNC. Outside of that, think of the legends that are from UNC. And I'm going to talk about basketball before I get to football. Michael Jordan, James Worthy. Oh my God, I forgot the head coach was that quick from back in the day in basketball. You might remember, Mr. Taylor. It is, oh my gosh, he was Michael Jordan's head coach.
His first name was Dean.
I don't remember the last name. Dean something. Dean Smith. Dean Smith. There we go. I had to say something to get to the Smith part. Dean Smith. Then let's go to the football players. Hall of Famer, recent Hall of Famer, Julius Peppers. I can't go too deep because I don't know many UNC college football players. I do know that a former host of one of my many shows and a very good friend, she always, replies when I hit her up on a text or message or whatever, because, she's legit. Sylvia Crawley. I don't know if you remember her, but she's a UNC person. WNBA legend. Also former Rutgers women's, was it Rutgers? I can't remember. Women's basketball head coach and many other things. Las Vegas Aces before they were the Aces. Just a bunch of people that are in that lineage is where I'm going with this. Now you bring Bill Belichick into that fold. The recruiting is very simple for him. He doesn't have to have his rings. He has a lineage. That's why I said he has the Deion Sanders effect. Deion honestly didn't have to be flashy, and he wasn't. the flash followed. Dion brought with him a set of players, a style, and even some coaches that, no longer are there. And it's his MO. He comes somewhere, brings some folks. Some people work out, some people don't. They move on. He wins. But he has that aura of winning. Belichick, for all of the negative feedback he gets for being, this crotchety old guy that doesn't, listen, and he's like, he's monotone, and he's like, no emotion, shows no loyalty to the players or anything, just the organization. But a lot of people say that that's not him. But he's now in charge of the football operations at UNC. Personally, I got to see what quarterback goes to him, because that'll tell me what type of offense they'll run. And I say this because the ACC is a very weak conference. SMU lost to Clemson in the championship, and the University of Miami, who has a Heisman candidate. I don't like Cam Ward. I think he's a better Jamarcus Russell. Just my opinion. We'll see if the Raiders get him at number 2. I don't know. That's if the Raiders have number 2. They might get number 1. You never know. But I believe, and the reason why Mac Brown got fired, the ACC was so weak and is so weak that they should not have an automatic bid to the new college playoff. And Bill Belichick will come in here and make them automatically a strong defensive team. It's just a matter of how he and who he hires as the offensive coordinator that will tell me if kids will flock there like they did to Colorado. And what type of kids flock to UNC? I'm not talking about ethnicity. I'm talking about 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, stuff like that. Which will it be balanced, or will it be more defensively, because that's what he's known for? Your thoughts on that? On Bill Belichick getting hired at UNC?
Well, first off, the University of North Carolina is known as a basketball college.
Yeah.
Okay. The only one I can think of that is a football giant, Hall of Famer, probably named one of the best players in all of NFL, including especially on defense, is Lawrence Taylor.
I forgot. And that's Belichick's most prized pupil in defense. I forgot. That's a good call.
He's what Bill Belichick calls the best player he's ever coached.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and quite naturally, Bill Belichick, I don't care how old he is. I mean, he's 72 years old. Okay. He's the best coach in college right now. He's the best coach in record, not college record, but best coach in college right now. Okay, because of his resume.
Okay, because of a resume.
Okay, because of his resume. And I think a lot of players, I think, going to flock to that university because he's coached for so long NFL players. Now he's going to college, and he can be a conduit of high school to college to NFL for players, because he knows what NFL players, what college players need to do to be eligible to be drafted in the NFL.
But that goes to my question about offense, defense. He knows defensively how to get to the NFL. He does not have, outside of Tom Brady, and I know a handful of wide receivers that did well, but they also did well when they left. He doesn't have a formula for offensive player to get to the NFL. in my opinion. He doesn't have a resume to prove it. He just has one great pick. That was Tom Brady, but I'll let you go on.
Thank you. Anyway, what I'm saying is he knows what it takes to get to the NFL, regardless of what position it is. His specialty was defense, but he also had his hand in the offense. If you listen to any of his players, they tell me that he goes into the, I'll just say, for instance, the wide receiver room. He goes into the quarterback room. He goes into the running back room. He goes into every position room and puts his coaching knowledge into that room and knows what the good and bad of the players that are in whatever respective room. So even though he's considered in quotation marks, a defensive coach, overall he is a team coach. He can go to any position and coach that position because he's a person of great detail and wants to know about every position on the football team, including special teams, because he was at one time a special teams coach. So I have no doubt that he's going to surround himself with guys that are specialized in nil, specialized in acquiring players, specialized in all the other players that are in that need to be done, specialized coaching that needs to be done in order to be able to run an organization like he did in the NFL.
Tony made a very good comment here, and this is where I was going with it. That's him coaching grown men. These are 18 and 22-year-olds. They might not be able to communicate with him. And this is what I mean by him being stuck in his ways, crotchety, old, non-responsive, and again, this is what we see on the outside, but some of his players say that's not Bill. But to the public, that's who Bill is. A guy that doesn't really care about anything but his own sphere. And in my opinion, you come into my house to recruit my kid and you're jovial and your stuff like this or like that. And I'm like, is that the same guy that I've seen on NFL sidelines and in interviews, just being curt, being, monotone? Is that really him? I don't think, and I don't care as a parent about his resume in the NFL. It doesn't matter to me unless he's going to get my kid and guarantee my kid an opportunity to play, not get a tryout, not, do whatever, but get me to the NFL because he hasn't coached on this level. The difference between him and Deion is that Deion coached at Jacksonville State. Deion coached high school. Deion coached, Pop Warner. Each level got better is the point. And he understood some of the nuances that went along with younger players. One of the biggest criticisms of Bill Belichick from players was he just could not relate to them. So communication was off. And in an organization or in a sport, and you made another point that I wanted to jump in on was with nil, and Belichick said this during his one of his weekly shows that he does with Jim Gray. Nil makes it seem like it's more NFL-like, and he believes he'll be able to relate better because he understands nil and he understands the NFL. Look, people's opinion of him and what he can do is their opinion of him. from an outsider looking in, I know that he's gonna. If my kid's a D-back, a linebacker, or defensive tackle, or something like that, or edge rusher, they're going to coach really hard and really well to get into the NFL. But if I got an offensive player that's not a running back, I'm worried. I'm not sending a top wide receiver to a Bill Belichick scheme. I don't care. And I'll be honest, I think he's going to get Josh McDaniel, who's been just out there, who was him and Charlie Weiss, and this from Brady, were the best two offensive coordinators he had. Now, McDaniel can probably relate to the younger kids because he's closer in age, but that same mindset is the problem. And Tony says he not only has to manage and coach them on the field, he's got to be responsible for them in the classroom and on campus. Abso-freaking-lutely. Chris, while that may be true, a girlfriend doesn't resonate as stability. And then Chris says he is dating. Really?
Yes. I don't know why. I don't know why you didn't know that. Yeah.
I didn't know that because I don't keep up with old people that don't, keep up with me. I don't keep up with Belichick. He don't DM me. I don't go on his love life. I didn't know that. But hey, that's more power to him and her. Thank her, because he's probably going to die soon with all that money. But I didn't know that. But the point that Tony made, and I agree with, you got to be able to be as the head coach, not saying he will be in class, everybody, but he has to manage. And I'm quite sure if he's able to manage an NFL organization, he can manage some of these folks. However, it's different in the sense that in the NFL, the owner can get people to check in on these players and babysit these players, where the coach's responsibility is game plan, win games. In this case, Belichick has to make sure that these players are making the grades, are being good stewards of the university's funds and things that they have. And I'm quite sure he's going to work with the athletic director to make things happen and move money. And the boosters, oh my God, the boosters are going to be crazy with Belichick there. I just mentioned Michael Jordan, biggest booster they got, right? So with that being said, I didn't plan for this topic to go this deep, but let's keep going. That's the reason the Bears didn't bring him in to coach. That's a fair point. And the NFL has 53, while a college roster has over 100, 120 athletes. Are you shaking your head? No, you're disagreeing with Tony.
I'm disagreeing completely. You know why? Because Deion Sanders has people checking up on their students, and they report back to Deion Sanders. Bill Belichick is going to do the same thing. He's going to do the same thing. He's got people reporting back to him about his students. He's going to delegate somebody to keep track of his students. Okay, and then
he's ultimately responsible.
Well, I didn't say that.
But that's the point of Tony, though.
Can I finish?
Well, I mean, that's the point of Tony.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
So, the comparison that Bill Belichick is going to be out of touch with the students, I find that you can say that about every college coach. Every college coach has a designated person that keeps in check or checks in with how their student athletes are doing, and then reports back to them and tell them which one's a problem. And if there's no problem, they're going to not report back to them with no problems. So Bill Belichick is going to run his organization and delegate people to do certain things. And one of them is to check on his students. And if there's a problem, that student will be addressed by Bill Belichick to get his stuff in order, or else. That's plain and simple. That's how most of the organizations, or what I'm understanding, every organization has a designee for the coach to keep track. Because the head coach is coaching football. He can't keep constant lookup of every student unless he has somebody reporting to him about
that's fine. That's fine. But what I'm gonna give you is this: who again is his most famed and prized pupil? You mentioned him earlier.
Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, he knew Lawrence Taylor was snorting coke. He knew Lawrence Taylor was on the golf course when he's supposed to be in practice, and he did nothing. He could do nothing. He was the defensive coordinator, but even when he went to the head coach, they did nothing because Lawrence Taylor was productive.
He never coached.
The difference I say.
Tell me
when
he.
Wait a minute.
The difference. You never let me finish, but that's okay.
Well, I'm trying to move on from this topic, but it's a good topic. But I want to move on. Tony put something else up. I was trying to close it out. But he has another good point. My point is that Belichick has a good mind or a solid mind for the X's and O's. He just wants to coach, right? And some of these decisions he's going to have to make are going to be different. I would enlist Nick Saban. That's who I would enlist to help me navigate all of this. Nick Saban and him used to work for that organization you were wearing the colors of. So there's a good chance that might happen. However, Nick Saban, who is about the same age, is more in touch with the youth of America and how things are and how to handle those things than Bill Belichick. But Tony says while he may do that, when these students get in trouble, the school and NCAA won't look to those he delegated.
That's what I was
saying. They'll look at him and remember this term.
That's what every head coach. That's what every head coach. It's no different. And Nick Saban left college football because of nil. So I don't know if he's going now. He may, but I don't know if he's going to want to join Saban because he's going to have to deal with students that are involved with nil.
I'm not saying join. I'm not saying join the administration or the team. I'm saying Belichick can look toward Nick Saban on how to deal with the younger players. Nick is only 1 year out from dealing with an 18, 19-year-old. Belichick has never had to do that. Well, I ain't gonna say never, but at the college level, as a head coach, he's never had to do that. And he's never had to deal with the 18, 19-year-old that's going to be a star right away or the blue chipper. What he did was he put him on the bench in the NFL, made them learn, or he put him in the starting lineup and told him to shut up and listen to the vets. You can't do that in college. It doesn't work that way. Why? Because these kids have just as much freedom to leave the organization as coaches do. You don't have that in the NFL at all. Unlike the kid Campbell, who just said, I'm not going to play today because you putting in Greenlaw. Now that guy is getting cut and probably not going to play in the NFL no more. But that is the attitude that Belichick will have from the younger generation playing. That's what I'm saying. And well, yeah, Tony, he might not join because they don't offer him opportunities. What I'm saying is he'll get, like I told Jerry, it's about the knowledge he has with the young folks. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Saban's going to join the staff and become, defense coordinator and all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying Saban's ability to relate to these younger kids, I believe, is far better than that of Belichick. And I wanted to save this for the end of the show, but we took up the first 30 minutes, which is fine. We'll probably circle back to it when we talk about the Patriots, which is also fine. But I want to my original topic was going to talk about the fantasy football playoffs and Week 14. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen.
This is 15.
Can I finish describing what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Week 14 is normally the week before your fantasy playoffs. And if you are like me, you drafted a really good roster, some of which had players on bye week 14. Big players, the Lamar Jacksons, oh my God, I just had the name in my head and I forgot that quick. Anyway, the Lamar Jacksons of the world, who obviously is your number one quarterback, CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, Nico Cobb, players like that are having an impact on your roster. Jonathan Taylor. Week 14 saw a lot of folks either lose or win because they didn't have it.
I agree, but that's okay. Let me interject here. You have to be a good manager. If you got players on that week,
yes,
okay.
I agree, but
that's part of it.
Hold on. I understand that. And to this, I'm gonna post this comment because it's disrespectful from the second lowest winning person or second losingest person in the league. But my point is, and I'm getting to the draft because I said I drafted players to get me around, and some of which were week 14. Week 15 this week, and I brought up 14 because I think the NFL, they're a big supporter of fantasy. They're a big supporter of gambling too. But I think the NFL said, you know what? All our ESPN leagues, all our other leagues, week 14 is the last week before somebody gets the playoffs. Let's put some people on bye and upset the apple cart. Just a little bit.
I agree with you, Tony.
A little bit. And when you do that, you put people in peril. Tony put up a statement, and I'm going to show you how reverse it is. I, at the time, was the number 2 seed going into week 14. I also lost 3 of my last 4. I happened to beat the other person on the other side as that lone win in the last month. And I had a lot of buys, but I'm not going to blame it on buys. I got beat. Injuries hurt me at the end, whereas a lot of teams got destroyed. Hoss, a very respectable man, had the injury bug all season. Tony just sucked. He just sucked. Tony had a 3-game winning streak in the season, but he didn't win the last game. Obviously, he hasn't checked the standings because Yahoo reversed that last game that he won. He actually lost it. So he's on a 1-game losing streak to end the season. But I say that to say, week 15 going into your fantasy playoffs, there are a lot of matchups here that have big implications in the NFL as well as your fantasy. We'll start with what happened just this past Thursday. How many people had Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, Cooper Kupp, I'm about to say ODB, Debo, Kittle, Purdy, Isaiah Garendo.
I can't believe
I'll talk about that in a second.
I can't.
But how many people had those guys? All impact players on your fantasy team going into the playoffs. Cooper Kupp. I'm not even going to worry about this crap. But I'm going to post this because Chris is my friend. Chris is a true friend to the end.
Come on. Stop calling.
But Cooper Kupp, a PPR machine, gets blanked for the first time in his NFL career in your first week. If you don't have a bye and you got Cooper Kupp from probably your number 2 receiver, because I'm probably the only one, I know for a fact I'm the only one that's been on this show that said Cooper Kupp was still, a top tier wide receiver.
He still is. 2019 was the last time Cooper Kupp got blanked. That's 5 years ago.
Again,
that's 5 years ago.
It's an anomaly. No one expected him to get 0.
It's an anomaly. It happens. It's in fantasy football. It happens.
So when you look at Puka, who gets you probably 5 points? Kerryon Williams gets you 5 points? Matthew Stafford gets you 6 to 7. And unless you had the kickers, you didn't get much of nothing from San Fran. So I'm telling you guys this because I made a decision. Will it bite me in the end? Because again, I am in the playoffs. I went from the number 2 seed to the 5th seed because I lost my final game, and I lost my division in the final game, which was terrible. But at least I had a winning record, and didn't have to pray to get in. But I'm playing in one of the leagues, this league, the Yahoo League, the guy over there. I'm going to whoop his ass again.
Okay.
Because I beat him twice already. But here's the thing. In the NFL, it is so hard to beat a team 3 times in one season.
He's making excuses now, but that's okay.
However,
that's okay.
No one made an excuse. However, I put in, and I'll give you my reasoning, ladies and gentlemen. I have Patrick Taylor on my bench, and I have Marvin Harrison Jr., who I got in the trade, who has been very up and down, but that's not his fault. It's his quarterback's fault, who I also have Kyler Murray. So I tried for the stack. But something told me, and it's telling me that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a very bad game. So with the news of Isaiah Garendo, literally possibly not playing because of his foot ankle issue and not practicing the couple days, I switched out Marvin Harrison Jr. for Garrett Wilson, who has a very favorable matchup, and I put in Taylor in my flex position, who gave me a donut. So I feel the pain, and that's why I talked about Cooper Kupp. I feel the pain of those people who was counting on a player.
Can I say
to
something?
give them? Yes, you can in a minute. In a second, please. In a second. So when you make these decisions, fantasy owners, and I'm showing you I'm human. I'm not this all-saying guru, and everything I say is 1,000% accurate. When you take these chances, especially during the playoffs, and then the week before, most of your dogs are out, it's going to be uphill sledding for everyone. So I say that to say, when we get to these games, it's a lot to talk about in these games, fantasy-wise, because you've got some matchups that are going to be, in my opinion, possibly high scoring, and some that are going to be low, but they're going to affect your fantasy playoff. So, with that being said, Mr. Taylor, briefly, go ahead and say what you got to say.
I said this last week, and I'll say it again. Fantasy is a lot of luck, okay? You can have named players on your roster that you expect to get some decent points from, and just like Cooper Kupp, they give you a 0. That happens. That's part of fantasy football. I'm not crying about it. I have Cooper Kupp on one of my playoff teams. I'm not crying about it. I made the choice. I put the best player I thought in for that position, and I got a 0. Okay, it's fantasy football. You can't turn the clock back. You made a decision. It didn't work out. Move on. You got to just not make any excuses. You just got to say, oh, well, that happens. I've always said that. You make your decisions based on the best information that you have. Even with the named players, even with a player that in 5 years hadn't had a donut, and he winds up getting a donut. Okay, can't do nothing about it. You made your decision, and it was the best decision with the information that you have. That's part of the luck and unluck of fantasy football. You got to be able to manage each week. I don't care what week it is. Each week, your fantasy players. You got to be able to manage them throughout the season. Your fantasy players, whether it's week 1 or week 14, which is the last week. If you have the unlucky, I wouldn't say unlucky, but part of your players, a lot of your players or whatever that aren't playing on week 14, that's on the fantasy manager. That's it. It's on the fantasy manager. You either win without those players or you win or you lose. And then you move on. And if you're eligible to get in the playoffs, you get in the playoffs. And then you have those players that weren't in 14, 15, and you manage those players and hope that they score what you want them to score, or they score you a donut. You got to make the best choices and leave the fantasy gods to handle it from there. So with a 0 in one of your players in a roster, you may get over it, you may not. But that's fantasy football, and you live and die with each week, and you live and die in the playoffs. Okay, it is what it is. I'm not going to cry about it, or I'm not going to be cheering about it, because anything can happen. Go play Pokemon.
All right. My brother Chris, I appreciate you. We talked about your boy Bill Belichick. We'll talk about Tampa Bay, who's now sitting at the top of the South, but they're going to lose this week, and then Atlanta's going to win Monday night. But we'll talk about that at a later time. Appreciate you, brother. With that being said, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to these games. So I'm not going to hold it up any further, and I'm going to go down the line. Dallas to Carolina. Now, look, some people might say this is an easy game. Do y'all know that Carolina's favorite to win this game? Carolina has been playing very, very good football as of late. They're a 2.5-point favorite. Dallas's offense, outside of Rico Dowdle, has been anemic. CD Lamb owners, I got rid of him before the season started. I knew he was not going to be productive.
I got rid of
So
him.
I gave him to somebody who really deserved him.
Exactly, because I got rid of him too. So, hello.
So, with that being the case, Tony, as you said, I don't want to call him a bust, but this year, he was definitely not worth the value that you paid for him.
Nope.
If you were like me and got him in the first round or in the first 3 picks. But a guy that's going to probably have some fun in this game is Ferguson, the tight end. He's going to get a lot of the targets, in my opinion, because Brandon Cooks should get some targets, but they look at him as an afterthought for some reason. And that's a big mistake. Devontae Turpin and all those other guys, they're doing well, but only person that I really think they're going to do well in this game, fantasy-wise, for you are going to be Rico Dowdle, Ferguson, and on the Panthers side, Adam Thielen. There are a lot of people think and thought Adam Thielen was, too old. Can't do it. He was injured, yes, but the man is putting up numbers, and he is making the young look like he has a future in the NFL. But the biggest guy that should have some fun in this game is Chuba Hubbard. Chuba has been on a tear, but the biggest defensive player isn't Micah Parsons. The biggest defensive player for Dallas is out. His whole knee's ripped up. Had he been playing, I would say Chuba would have a lot harder time running the ball. But I'm going to go with Dallas in this game. And the fantasy value here are the folks that I mentioned. Who do you have winning this game?
Dallas played better, believe me, but Dallas played better on the road. I got to believe Dallas is going to pull this one out.
Okay. Next up, Kansas City, Cleveland. Woo, doggy. Listen. Because I realize who I have on the other end of this. Listen. Kansas City has been really, really, really lucky. Really lucky. Really lucky. They're getting healthy, though. Hollywood might play this week or next week. But Hopkins, Kelsey, and Pacheco are dope. They are dope. The defense isn't as good as it was last year. The bishop over there in Cleveland needs to get back to his Bible and his word because he's been preaching really well, but terrible results. Terrible. They're not winning. It's a lot of hype. And if you're watching Hard Knocks, you know exactly what I mean. You don't even have to watch the Hard Knocks. The product is decent on the field, but it ain't good enough. It's not good enough. Here's the thing. McDuffie, I believe, is going to lock down Jerry Jeudy. He did it so many years when he was with the Broncos. Jerry Jeudy got nothing. Nick Chubb, not the Nick Chubb that you're used to. He's coming off of a knee injury. Maybe next year is his last big year, but don't expect anything big in this game. But what I will tell you is, and Tony says KC wins by 7. I don't think they win by 7. I think Cleveland gives them a tough game, ultimately loses, but they lose by 3. And the thing is, that kicker barely made that kick versus the Chargers. Doing. I believe it's in Cleveland. Let me make sure before I say that. It's in Cleveland. That makes this even tougher. But conditions are conditions because Kansas City plays in bitter cold and snow too. But I got to go Kansas City by a field goal. In this game, you know who you're going to play. You drafted Pat to be your number 1 receiver. You drafted quarterback. You drafted Kelsey to be your number 1 tight end. You probably drafted Pacheco and held on to Pacheco to be your number 1 running back. Only questions are, do you play Hopkins versus that Cleveland Browns secondary? You don't play Kareem Hunt, even though he gets a couple touches, but you don't play him because he's not going to get you any valuable touches. I don't play Jerry Jeudy. I know he had a couple explosive weeks, but no, I'm not playing him. Jameis Winston, he might throw a couple more picks. That Denver game was like 30 for 30, except it wasn't 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns. It was like
It was on the road.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter that's germane to my point. Has nothing to do with my point. My point is he throws a lot of interceptions. Last time they played was not a good look for him. He threw for over 500 yards, I think 3 or 4 touchdowns, but also threw 3 interceptions. Not good. So whether it's on the road or at home, whatever, I think Stefanski needs to pull back his ability to just throw the ball willy-nilly. According to Hard Knocks, may or may not happen. We'll see. I got, like I said, Kansas City by 3 in this game, and those are my fantasy picks. Who do you have in the game?
I got KC in the game. In fantasy, I would play James Winston, Jerry Jeudy, and Elijah Moore. With the volume of passing that he does, no David Njoku or Cedric Tillman. With the volume of passing that is in this Cleveland Browns scenario or Arsenal, they're going to be throwing the football because their run game has been inefficient. Nick Chubb is not the Nick Chubb of past. Jerome Ford is not a Nick Chubb. He's a decent one, but he's not a Nick Chubb. Plus, the fact is, KC is one of the best teams, if not the best team against the run. Okay, so they're going to have to move the football. They're going to have to pass it, and is just the person to pass the football because the volume that he's been passing ever since he's starting for the Cleveland Browns has been astronomical. So they're going to pass the football, and any pass catcher that they have, Jerry Jeudy or Elijah Moore, is going to benefit for that in fantasy. Maybe not reality, but in fantasy.
All right, moving on. We got Miami at Houston. Look, man, or folks, Miami's not out of it. Houston is holding on to that division title. I don't think the Colts are going to really be a legit, contender for it. But Miami has a legit shot at getting that last spot in the playoffs. They let Odell Beckham go because of mutual whatever. He missed 2 practices, and they mutually agreed to part ways. Really didn't have a big impact. Tua is the key. Tua is the key. It's indoors, which is in Houston, so the weather isn't going to be a problem during December. Miami has a terrible December record. They won last week, but they still have a terrible December record. They got to win this game. But Houston, coming off of a bye week, like I said, hurt some people trying to get to playoffs. And who knows what will be the issue this week because they were rested. But does that rest come at a cost of rust? Joe Mixon is back in the building, so you can expect a heavy dose of him. Nico Collins, Tank Dell is missing, but are they going to find him? CJ Stroud, definitely not having the type of year that he had last year, but it's still somewhat productive. Miami's defense worries me here. They have the equipment, to go toe-to-toe with Houston. Devin Achane, obviously I'm going to play him. Tyreek, I'm going to play him. He has not broken 100 yards all season, though, in a game. Again, another player who I took first in many leagues because I had number 2 pick or number 3 pick, whatever it was. But he hasn't gotten on track. But you got to play him. Some folks are going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over Geno. Look, I'm going to tell you right now. His numbers are based upon the scheme of defense they play. And in this scheme, Houston, they're pretty good at covering the tight end. So I don't expect a lot from him. Now, Al-Shahir is out, whatever the case may be. But Petrie, that dude can hit, that dude can cover. He's a strong safety that is a monster. So I don't expect much from him. Singletary, cornerback. He does not have the speed to keep up with Tyreek, but he can lock down Waddle. But you still got to play Waddle, man. You still got to play. This is one of those games where your fantasy outcome could be held in the balance if you stacked Tua, Achane, Tyreek, maybe even Geno, CJ, Mixon, Nico. Now that's a legit 3 that somebody could have got. A legit stack somebody could have got. Your whole fantasy game, if you don't have a bye week, could be held in the balance of this one matchup. That's one of the things about stacking that is a deterrent. You got to do a little bit of homework. Who is that week 15? Just in case you got to play them. Opponent that your stack plays. Luckily, I got a lot of Falcons. But Kurt been messing up, man. I don't know what the hell is up with Kurt. But they play the Raiders. So help me, Jesus. But this is a toss-up game in my opinion. I'm only going to give it to Houston on 2 bases. They're at home, and Miami has a terrible December record. They need this win. Wouldn't surprise me if they get it, but they need this win. Who are you picking in this game?
Home. Houston. That's it.
Okay. Jets at Jacksonville. Now, I'm going to admit something, y'all. But I really don't think I'm wrong. I think ownership is really, really wrong and really messed up. The Jets go to Jacksonville. Fantasy goodness here for you, ladies and gentlemen. Fantasy goodness. Now, in one league, I dropped Aaron Rodgers to pick up C.J. Stroud for my playoff push because I like the last 2 games or last 3 games that Stroud plays outside of this Miami game. Aaron Rodgers has been rumored. Mr. Taylor probably can speak more to this because he's in that area. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't have information. I don't know. But Aaron Rodgers has done well the last couple weeks. But the rumor is they're really looking to bench him for the last game or 2. And Garrett Wilson's asked for a trade. Now, I don't know how true that is, but Garrett Wilson has received a lot of the looks and a lot of the love outside of Devontae Adams the past couple weeks. I hope it continues, especially against Jacksonville. But the guy that a lot of folks mistakenly said was the number 1 overall pick, Breece Hall has, whether he's injured or not, these younger running backs, Allen, and I think the other kid's name is Allen too, if I'm not mistaken. One from Wisconsin, one from I forget the other school, but
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Thank you. Have taken over and make Breece Hall somebody you got to consider not playing in your playoff stacks. Aaron Rodgers, Wilson, Breece Hall. And there's a likelihood that you got all 3. Week 15. Perfect matchup versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Look, what I was saying I was wrong about, Doug Peterson is still the damn head coach of Jacksonville. Doug Peterson should have been fired 5 games ago. 5 games ago, he should have been fired. I don't think he's going to make it to next year. Maybe, maybe not. Have no clue. But Travis Etienne isn't getting the ball as in a position to do much for you. Trevor Lawrence, I believe he's playing, or he's questionable to play. He's not ruled out yet. If he's ruled out, then Macaroni Tony, he's okay.
He's okay because Brian Thomas Jr., regardless of the quarterback, this is when you know you have a good player. Regardless of the quarterback, Thomas Jr. has done well. He has done well. Travis Etienne has done terrible. But here's the big thing. They lost Christian Kirk for the season. They lost Evan Ingram for the season. That does not bode well. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne will have nowhere to run. Yes, I'm telling you to bench Travis Etienne for your playoff if you have him. But you can't bench Brian Thomas Jr. because no matter who the quarterback is, he's been productive. Flip side, the Jets, look, this is a favorite matchup in the playoffs. Play Aaron Rodgers. Play him. Will he have the same results that he did last week? I don't know. But Garrett Wilson has been the favorite target of him over the past couple weeks, which I'm delighted and happy to accommodate, especially versus Jacksonville. I don't care if it's in Jacksonville. That just means it's not going to be cold. It might be rainy, but it's not going to be terrible weather. The Jets are 3-13. No, 3-12. 3-10. 3-10. Jacksonville's 3-10. What are the odds that this goes to a tie? I like Jacksonville, but I'm picking the Jets, and I already told you who to play. Mr. Taylor.
I like the Jets.
Okay. Okay. Trap game. Trap game, guys. Trap game. If I do this, who am I impersonating? Jake Haener. Jake Haener and the New Orleans Saints host the Washington Commanders, who also are coming off of what? A bye week. A lot of people miss Jaden Daniels a lot of people. Washington has some issues right now. But the first thing we're going to talk about is Lattimore making his return to the team that let him go. He hasn't played since he was traded to Washington, but he's going to play this week. It's not a big deal. Who is he going to cover? I expect to see a couple interceptions from Jake Haener in this game. You, fantasy-wise, play Washington's defense. I think Mr. Taylor picked up their defense and put them against me this week. So, I'm expecting a large number from that defense. I just know it's going to happen. I know my team. I know my team's defense. They've come on strong as of late. With that being said, what was I going to say? I gotta tell you, Alvin Kamara is the only thing I'm going to tell you to play. I know he has Atlanta. I don't like him right now because he's got Atlanta's defense. Because that's another one. That's another good one. That's another good one to have this week. Atlanta's defense versus the Raiders. But Jaden Daniels, the big back that people are – listen, when I tell you this, if you're in your playoff and you have this guy, you don't take him out. I'm talking about Robinson. You keep him – Washington will run him into the ground. Run him into the ground. And against this team, who, like I said, I'm only telling you to play Alvin Kamara because who do they have left? New Orleans is hanging on by a thread. Terry McLaurin has been switched from the X to the Z position, and I understand why, because Cliff Kingsbury's offense does not cater to the X receiver. It caters to the Z receiver as the first look. Now, Norman Brown was the Z receiver. Norman Brown is now out for the season with, I believe, possible lacerated kidney. So Washington signs KJ Osborne, who's listen, he's all right, but I don't think he's going to have a big impact right away. They'll probably play Zacchaeus Williams or not Zacchaeus Williams, Zacchaeus, McCaffrey, and definitely De'Ami Brown in those positions. Osborne might come in. I don't know. We'll see tomorrow. But he's definitely not going to get the passes. I expect Terry McLaurin to at least get 9 targets in this game. This is not me being a homer. This is the matchup. Again, if you got the stack, which some people might, Brian Robinson Jr., Jaden Daniels, and Terry McLaurin, and don't forget Zach Ertz. Do not forget Zach Ertz. He's had a dull couple weeks, but I expect him to have some fun too. And definitely play Washington's defense in this game. Definitely. Going against some number 4 receivers, the number 3 quarterback, and Alvin Kamara. That's all I can tell you. Mr. Taylor.
The sleeper in this, and I'll tell you this, and I put him in my lineup. He came off of IR. He played last week, and he got 10 touches plus a touchdown. Kendre Miller. He's a bigger back. He's bigger than Alvin Kamara. And he's very capable of doing the same things Alvin Kamara do. And they don't have a lot of passing options. They're going to be dinking and dunking to whatever running back is in there, plus their tight end, Juwan Johnson. Okay? I don't expect him to score a lot of points, not with the quarterback, but you don't need a lot of points to acquire fantasy points. So that's who I'm looking at. Those 3 players from the New Orleans Saints. I think Washington wins the football game. But I think Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, and Juwan Johnson are going to be quality fantasy points. Miller more of flex. Alvin Kamara, either you can put him in a 1 or 2 in a running back position. That's how I feel. But I think Commanders win this game.
Kendre Miller's a good player. I think he's more of the power back for them, replacing Taysom Hill's responsibility. So he might be of value, but you're in your fantasy playoffs. My only thing to that is, can you afford to play him not knowing what type of productivity he's going to have?
When you have a player coming off of IR, and the only reason he mainly was on the IR because the coach didn't like him, okay? So they put him on the IR for X amount of weeks until he got taken off the IR by the new interim coach. And he gets 10 touches the first week he gets off IR, which I'm thinking because of the lack of targets, lack of available players, that he's going to get more. I'm not saying he's going to get the equal of Alvin Kamara, but he's going to get more. So, yes, I'm willing to take that shot. Absolutely. It's only fantasy football. You win, you lose. You win or you lose. That's the 2 choices. If you win, you move on. If you lose, you don't. You made the best choice that you wanted to make, and you live with it.
I mean, yeah, no one's debating that. I'm just saying, if you as a owner, GM, whatever you want to call yourself, if you're willing to take that chance,
I just said
all I'm saying is, if you want to take that chance, that is on you. But for me, I am looking at somebody that's on my roster that has been productive, like a Tyler Algier.
You took Patrick Taylor and put him in your lineup. Isn't that not taking a chance?
Like I said earlier on, there was a big risk at that point. And my rationale was, I don't believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a productive game. I didn't want to risk Tank Dell. I should have put in Tyler Algier, but I thought Isaac Orindo wasn't going to play, or I thought it was going to be a split carry situation there, and it wasn't. So I took a chance and I lost. That's why I just said, from experience, not just somebody saying, you pick up a guy, you put him in, you might get a donut, you might get something. That's on you if you take that chance. I did, and it didn't work out yet. Guaranteed. He will not be starting next week when I advance.
Okay. If you advance, God bless you. If you don't, God bless you.
We got Baltimore at the Giants. I'm going to say this again. Trap game. Not
even close.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Giants defense is the New York Giants offense. DeVito, is supposed to play. He's going to feed Malik Neighbors, who a lot of you guys drafted as probably your number 1, number 2 wide receiver in fantasy. So I would say you're probably going to get the 7 targets or more to Malik Neighbors. Now, what comes out of that versus Baltimore has a shaky secondary, unbelievably so, but they do. So you're good there. Here's the thing. Is Tracy or Singletary going to be the guy to carry the mail? It's been Tracy, but Singletary, he does a little this, that, and the third. And I say Baltimore's run defense is a lot better than their pass defense. So you might not be safe there. But again, can you afford to leave a starter that you know is going to get you points? You just don't know how many on your bench. Darius Slayton, if you have no other choice. Some players right now, you have no choice but to go to Darius Slayton because your receiving core is so beat up. Right? Let's go to Baltimore. I watched someone drop Zay Flowers. I get it. Lamar is not hitting Zay.
Hello?
I get it. But you don't drop Zay Flowers a week before your fantasy playoffs unless you're doing some shady stuff. I've seen people drop players, trade away players, do things that could be considered shady and probably was. But you don't drop Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers was probably your number 2 wide receiver you drafted. Probably. He shouldn't have been your number 1. If he was your number 1, then okay, you probably didn't draft too well because you knew Lamar was not throwing him the ball. The person you want to play in this game who's had a resurgence outside of the king is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has been getting 5 to 6 targets a game. Now, has he caught all of them? No. Some of them been here, some of them been there, some of them been right here. But his volume has ticked up. And in the winter and in the cold, you run the ball and you throw to your tight end. That's what you do. You're going to New York. What is the weather like up there, Mr. Taylor?
It's nice and sunny out right now. And about 30, between 30 and 40, 45 degrees, somewhere around there.
And tomorrow plans to be similar?
Yeah.
You have a 250, 260-pound running back running at you all game long. You have a 250-pound tight end running at you and blocking you all game long. Do I need to say more, ladies and gentlemen? And of course you start Lamar. Of course you do it. Prime fantasy football playoff matchup. There's no way. And I saw the spread is like 16.5. I don't know if Baltimore covers 16.5, but I do know they win this game. I know that the Giants defense is way better than what people think. I know Dexter Lawrence and O'Keefe are Lawrence is on IR. I'm not sure about middle linebacker O'Keefe, who's a monster. I'm not sure about him. But there's not much to worry about. Play Malik Neighbors. Get your points there. But this is all Baltimore. Your pick.
I'm picking the Baltimore Ravens to smash the New York Giants.
Cincinnati goes to Tennessee. Now, look, ladies and gentlemen. Look. Mayonnaise Man, a.k.a. Will Levis, should not be the starting quarterback next year. Probably will be, but should not be. When your leading receiver for the past 5 weeks is not the guy you just paid over $100 million to, and it's the 4th or 5th wide receiver. I love Westbrook. Westbrook, forget his last name. He is their leading receiver. Calvin Ridley gets pennants. He gets pebbles. The big play, the touchdown, is Akeem Westbrook. Tony Pollard has been very stable. But can you count on him in your playoff? I'm not saying count on Westbrook in the playoff either. I mean, if you got him for a reason. Calvin Ridley, also, can you trust him to put up numbers in your playoff? I guarantee you Will Levis is going to be throwing the ball a lot if Kyle Rudolph isn't playing, because I think there was some talk about Kyle Rudolph probably playing. But when Cincinnati comes to town, Jamar Chase, I'm expecting T. Higgins to go off because the body language I saw versus the Cowboys, there were some balls that I believe should have gone to T. Higgins that game. But Joe threw him to Jamar. Jamar had 170-something receiving yards and like 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think it's going to be T. Higgins' turn this game. I really do. I'm hoping T. Higgins becomes a Washington Commander next year because he's going to be the highest sought-after free agent in my book if he doesn't get double tagged. But with that being said, I can't trust Rihanna. You're saying Rihanna? What does Rihanna got to do with Chris Brown? I can't trust him.
Chase Brown.
Chase, Chris, they all look the same to me. But Chase Brown, thank you. I can't trust Chase Brown. 1 week he's spectacular. Next week he's And versus the Cowboys defense, he should have been spectacular. But he wasn't. Tennessee has one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. You wouldn't know it because teams throw on them and run on them like crazy, but they literally have one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. I don't think it's going to be good enough to stop the train of Higgins, Chase, and Burrow. That's the new law firm. Play Chase Burrow, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins in your playoffs. Now, if you were able to get those 3, you're probably frustrated as hell with T. Higgins, but it ain't his fault. But if you're able to get those 3, this is the game you play in. All 3 of them. Tennessee's going to lose again. I've got the Bengals. Mr. Taylor.
Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, in their recent press conferences, have been pushing for T. Higgins to get paid. Have been pushing for T. Higgins to stay with this team and get paid. What happened last week, I'm not expecting the opposite, but I think what happened last week is T. Higgins was pretty much shut out of a big game, and Jamar Chase had a big game with Joe Burrow throwing the football. I expect that to change this week, that they're going to showcase T. Higgins more than Jamar Chase. That's what I'm looking at. Westbrook McKean has only been getting 3 or 4 touches, but with those 3 and 4 touches, one of them is the touchdown.
All the time.
Calvin Ridley has been getting a lot of targets. He gets catches with a lot of yardage. I expect those guys to probably even out in the fantasy production with Will Levis. Tony Pollard is dealing with ankle issues, if I'm not mistaken. So, but he's expected to play. Tony Pollard is the main cog in that offense. They run the football and then play action to get to those 2 wide receivers. I expect the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game, even if it's in Tennessee.
All right, moving on. I'm going to be at this game. Only because I got to support the home team. I cannot tell you all that the Arizona Cardinals are going to go 10-7 this year. What I can tell you is they have a strong possibility of doing so. And it starts this week. The problem is I love and I bang on the table. Mr. Taylor was there during the draft. Gonzalez is a legit shutdown corner with speed, with size. I hate the fact that Washington got it Forbes. I said it live when I did the show. I've said it ever since. Now he's a backup in New Orleans or the Rams, wherever he is. But Gonzalez is the truth. That defensive line in New England is the truth. Drake May will be better. They need to get him another top-tier wide receiver because I'll be honest with you, nobody scares me. Ramondre Stevenson can only run the ball so many times. Antonio Gibson can come in only but so many times. But with that said, I believe Gonzalez is going to maybe not shut down Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's going to limit him drastically. That means Mike Wilson, the number 2 receiver, and Dorsett, the number 3 receiver for Arizona, need to step up. But the biggest guy that needs to step up is going to have a hard time versus that Pats defense is James Conner. Kyler Murray is going to run around for his life. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? They got Drake May who can imitate Kyler Murray. Maybe not as fast, but he is mobile. But the biggest guy I want you to play is the best tight end in football right now, Trey McBride. Trey McBride is that guy. Numbers don't lie. I expect Kyler to hit Trey McBride a lot because he's not going to be able to get the ball to Marvin. As he's going to try, but probably not as much. I've sat there in the stadium and watched him ignore Marvin Harrison. Well, not ignore, let me not use that. Not throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. for 2 straight quarters. Several times. And I'm like, bro, I know you are short. I know I'm taller than you. But guy,
you know he's over there. Throw the damn ball. But Trey McBride is a good person to have there. And what I think is going to happen is they're going to mix it up with Connor and Benson. Benson is not that good of a running back in the NFL. He goes lateral too much. He does not put his foot in the ground and go straight. He's looking to scrape and then hit. But the holes aren't. He needs to make a decision and go forward. Against this Patriots defense, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But fantasy-wise, Kyler should have a good game. McBride should have a good game. The sleeper, in my opinion, is Wilson. The other cornerback isn't that great. But Gonzalez, he worries me. I got to pick the Cardinals, of course, to win the game. Mr. Taylor.
New England's one of the lowest scoring teams in the league. I got to go with the Cardinals.
All right. Now listen. First of all, I'm going to say this. Probably the only time I'm going to say it. I'm going to thank Mr. Taylor for dropping Richardson. And I was able to pick him up. Not for this game, because this is going to be a hell of a game. Colts and Rams. And I thought it would be really disrespectful to whoop his ass with the player that he dropped. But then again, I said, you know what? The times Richardson has played really tough defenses, he's gone single digits. So I said, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. Ego aside, I'm a ride or die with Kirk Cousins. Please don't die. But Kirk's been killing me. When we get to the Atlanta game, I'll tell you what he's been doing to me. I'm going to say this again. Bo Nix is not, I repeat, not Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't care what that record says. If you watched Denver play Cleveland, if he didn't throw the ball to Sutton, it wasn't a good pass or it was a 50-50 ball. Can he afford to do that versus the Colts defense? I don't know. Richardson is going to be forced to throw the ball to Pittman because his favorite target might be out or injured. But then you got Patrick Surtain Jr. over there locking down Cortland Sutton. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. They're on the same team. You got Patrick Surtain Jr. locking down Michael Pittman Jr. The juniors versus juniors. So we're going to take him out the equation. Denver has a very strong run defense. Can Jonathan Taylor make a difference there? Again, go if you have the stack. Pittman Jr., Richardson, and Taylor. I'm playing a different quarterback, and I'm not playing Pittman Jr. I have no choice but to play Jonathan Taylor because why? He was the number one running back I drafted. If, in that scenario. Denver has a top 5 defense, fantasy-wise and in real life. But you got to play Cortland Sutton because he's going to get 6, 7, 8, 9 targets because that's who Bo Nix feels comfortable with. Which running back are you going to play? You don't know. But you do play Denver's defense. This should be a game where Denver's defense steps up against the inexperienced Richardson. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt running the ball again, but you never know. Even though I know that folks are like, well, they're going to make calls, rookie of the year. No. They're going to win this game, even though the Colts need to win this game. Broncos don't need to win the game, but they'll win the game. Who do you got winning the game, Mr. Taylor?
I have Denver win this game in Denver.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the next game, if you have any player offensively in this next game, chalk it up as a W this week. Last week, the highest scoring NFL game was between the Rams and the Bills. 86 points. What do you think the Bills and the Lions are going to score? Jared Goff is going to go off on that terrible Buffalo secondary.
I sure hope he does.
Excuse me?
I said I sure hope he does.
I know you do. I know you do. But it's going to help somebody else too, because Gibbs is going to get off. Laporta is definitely going to get off, because that has been his favorite target as of late for touchdowns. So by all means, I hope Jared Goff throws for 6 touchdowns, 3 of them to Laporta, 1 or 2 to Gibbs, and Gibbs runs in 1 or 2, and Montgomery runs in 1 or 2, and St. Brown gets 1. So that's like 8 touchdowns. Because I guarantee you, Josh Allen, he's going to find a way to put up points in this game. Amari Cooper, nowhere to be found. Period. Ain't even. They traded for him, but he's been inactive 2 of the weeks. And then in the games he did play, non-factor, except for the lateral to Josh Allen for the touchdown. I think he has 1 other touchdown. Cooks. Love Cooks. But, bro, between him and Gibbs, that's going to be You got Sonic and Knuckles, and I don't know what this new Sonic movie, the other one is, but that's who the other one is. The Keanu Reeves Sonic version. But Shakir has been the favorite target. Dawson Knox supposed to play. He's questionable. But in a big game, he needs to play. Fantasy goodness all over. All over. I think we get close to 90 points, if not more, in this game. And I'm going with Detroit. And I'm hoping. I'm praying that Jared Goff has an excellent game.
I hope Jared Goff
goes to Sam Laporta.
Okay.
And Gibbs. I don't care about St. Brown. I don't care about, Jameson. All I cares about is Laporta and Gibbs. Mr. Taylor.
I can tell you this, and if you've been watching the Detroit games, there have been question marks on a missing man in the Detroit offense, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
That's true.
This is a big game, and I expect a big game from the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're going to hear that name often. Jared Goff to Amon-Ra. Jared Goff to even Tim Patrick. Jared Goff to Jameson Williams. Okay, he throws to the other back, Jahmyr Gibbs. He throws to his tight end, but I don't think his tight end is going to have a big game. I think those 3 wide receivers are going to be the key to them winning this game. I like the Detroit Lions in this game.
Okay.
Tony said,
If y'all haven't noticed,
Buffalo by 5.
if y'all haven't noticed, I play this guy again. I have a chance to do something that has not been done to him since he's been in any of my leagues. 3-0 is what I'm looking for.
Okay, I'm not worried about.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the last two.
I am
Only one
looking to go 3-0 this year and advance in the playoff. Y'all don't know how much this really means to me.
Yeah, I can see how much. It
Yeah,
means.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people.
It's a damn shame. You 40-something years old. Really? Really?
I want to really. You know what? Hey Tony, if you're playing fantasy this year is anything like your predictions, that's not gonna happen, and it ain't. But there's a wonderful sensation I feel when I eliminate him. It's
people. Let me tell you something.
it feels so good. We're gonna move on to the next game.
Let me tell
We're
you.
gonna move on to the next game. Hold on. We've seen your predictions for the NFL this year. Hey, bro. I've been good. I've been hot during the season. I haven't been spectacular, but I've been hot. Now we're gonna move on to the next game, which is Tampa Bay at the Chargers.
He doesn't want to hear from me back. Okay.
Here's the thing. Tampa Bay at the Chargers. The biggest thing here for you fantasy folks is Bucky Irving or Mr. White. If you start Bucky, will he burn you? If you start White, will he get enough touches? Three people I'm gonna tell you to start in this game. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, Tampa's gonna win this game. They're gonna win the game first of all. Baker, Mike Evans, Cade Otton. Those are the three that you should start in this game. And I'm gonna tell you why. Even though the Chargers defense is stellar, Jim Harbaugh screwed the pooch when he got rid of all the wide receiver talent with the Chargers. This guy. But he's not going to say how great I was last year. It's okay. I'm not going to worry about him. That's why you aren't here. That's why you're, typing with your little keyboard jabs, and stay on the outside where you belong in the losers bracket. But I'll keep going. Jim Harbaugh screwed the pooch when he let both Keenan Allen go and Mike Williams. If you have not noticed, they need Herbert to win games for them. But he can't win games when people are dropping the ball left and right. Quentin Johnson. Oh, my goodness. Ladd McConkey didn't play last week. He leads them in receptions. He needs to play. No J.K. Dobbins, no run game. I don't need to, people can say what they want, but the proof is in the pudding. Since J.K. has been out, they have not been able to run the ball. And they've got their offensive line. Alt's back. Still can't run the ball. But when Herbert's putting the ball on the money and these guys are dropping it, and you have no run game, it's a wrap. This is why Tampa Bay wins the game. Todd Bowles knows that those receivers can't catch. Todd Bowles is going to blitz a hell of a lot and leave his corners one-on-one. Even if his corners get beat, literally, I'm not joking, unless it's Ladd McConkey, there's a 50-50 chance that those guys are going to catch the ball on any route. I got to go with Tampa Bay until JK comes back in a week or two. I don't think Chargers win unless they play Cleveland or something like that. But outside of that, I don't think they win. Your prediction?
Playing in LA, I like the Chargers in this game. I think the Chargers are the better team. Baker is going to have trouble with the pass rush that the Chargers bring to him, plus the backside. He's probably going to do a lot of dump offs to the tight end, Cade Otton, and Rashad White if Bucky Irvin doesn't play. Mike Evans is the main wide receiver, and depending on how wicked that pass rush is from LA Chargers, is he going to be able to get the ball to Mike Evans? That's the question. Okay.
All right. Well, he'll get it to him.
And the fact is,
go ahead.
And the fact is, if you notice, people, somebody wants to win, and somebody's mentioning it all show long about fantasy. Somebody wants to win so hard in the worst way.
Moving on.
I guarantee.
Let me just go ahead and move
that
on.
If and when he beats me, he's going to be talking up a storm because that's just the way he is. Whether I lose, and I had a.
I'm trying to move on. Can we just move on? Like I said, we already covered that. Pittsburgh at Philly. Here's a game. Remember I said your fantasy playoffs hinge on a couple of games. Pittsburgh is going into this game without their top receiver. They won last week on the strength of their kicker and moving the ball a little bit. Philadelphia is a different animal. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Philadelphia is a run team. They're not a pass team. The numbers show it. And to my surprise, who's their offensive coordinator? Kellen Moore. I would think they would be throwing the ball left and right. I really would. They're not. With the rift, and there is a second rift between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Both addressed the media about it this week. Look, this isn't the week to be begging for the ball. You saw what Debo did when he was begging for the ball? Not much. Going against Pittsburgh and you complaining? That's a totally different animal there, AJ. I think Devontae Smith has a better game than AJ. I think Saquon's going to get stifled a little bit. I think there's going to be one of those games where the run game is going to definitely be featured on both sides of the ball. Saquon runs the ball really hard, really well. Najee, he might have some problems now. Without Pickens out there, they're going to stack the box again. But the Eagles' best part of their defense as of late has been their secondary. It has been their secondary. If we're not throwing the ball, that means you got to stop the run. Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley owners, in your playoff, you both have very difficult matchups. Hopefully, if you got Saquon, you're not playing week one. You're probably in a bye week. But if you got Saquon, you got to play this week. It's going to be tough sledding. It's a tough interstate matchup. I can't remember the last time what happened when Pittsburgh went to Philly. But I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I really do. I don't see a lot of touchdowns in this. Not at all. I got to go with Pittsburgh only because I need Pittsburgh to win, and I want them to win. Go ahead.
You see the guy over there? You see that guy next to him on my right? Just think about a few good men. Okay? He can't handle the truth, so he mics me.
Oh, my.
Okay? He can't handle the truth, so he mics me. He mutes me. Okay? That's okay. That's fine. We know we know what type of guy you are. No problem. You only hear what you want to hear. That's okay. I like Philadelphia.
What is he going with a personal attack for? It's okay. It's okay.
You said it was personal, didn't you?
No one said it was personal. No one said it was personal.
But
if you want to make it personal, that's fine.
Where's my phone at?
So, Green Bay versus Seattle. Another fantasy game that's going to cost some people. You drafted Kenneth Walker the third, didn't you? Probably your number 2, maybe even number 1 running back. You drafted DK Metcalf, your number 1 or number 2 wide receiver. You got Geno on the humble. Geno is one of the league leading in passing. I believe he's like number 1, number 2, something like that.
My boy Geno.
Right behind Joe Burrow. With that being said, Seattle, Green Bay's on a mission. You don't know who's going to beat you from Green Bay. Josh Jacobs probably is your number 1 running back. And quietly, Josh Jacobs has had a very good year. Very quietly. Which receiver is going to show up for Green Bay? You don't. For a minute, I thought the best target in Green Bay was Kraft. I was wrong. But Kraft has been a very good tight end option. Now,
that's what he does, Tony.
The difference is Green Bay's coming to Seattle. I don't know what the weather is up there, but Green Bay's designed to be a run-first team. Seattle has become a very good run-stopping team. When they got Jones as their middle linebacker, that defensive front 7 bowed up. Leonard Williams became a dominant player again. This is going to be a very good game. But again, you have your fantasy playoffs on the line. I'm sure Jordan Love is your starting quarterback. Sure he is, especially after coming back from injury. But you're going to Seattle. And it's a different type of noise in Seattle than anywhere else. And when your receivers aren't consistent, it becomes a problem. Now, on the flip side, Zach Charbonnet, who had a great game last week, I was totally wrong about Green Bay's front 7. Totally wrong. I don't think Zach Charbonnet is going to get over 100 yards rushing. He may get a touchdown. But am I holding my breath in my fantasy championship, in my fantasy playoff that Zach Charbonnet is going to pull it out for me in a flex position or my starting running back? Now, flex, quite possibly. But again, you're going against Green Bay. It's going to be tough. This is a very tough game. I'm going back and forth on it. I'm going to go with Green Bay with it, though. But as I said, DK, maybe. Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's become the favorite target of of Geno, for sure. Charbonnet, maybe in a flex, but you gotta start Josh Jacobs in this game. Who do you have winning the game, Mr. Taylor?
Jordan Love scares me. He's I think the last 3 or 4 games he's thrown a pick, and either a pick or a pick six, which scares me. Green Bay defense. Seattle pass defense is not all that bad. Okay, and you got Christian Watson is the only wide receiver that has the most targets over the last 2 or 3 games. And a lot of people are discounting Christian Watson. I like Green Bay. I like Green Bay in this team, but I have to dispute about Zach Charbonnet. I think he's going to be the featured back, and usually the featured back in Seattle gets passing touches, and also he's better at catching the football than Kenneth Walker, so they're going to pass to him more often, and he's going to quite naturally take over the running game. But I like Green Bay to win this game.
Okay. Next game. Monday night, doubleheader. And I'm going to ask your opinion on this because I've heard a couple people say they don't like it. Some people say they like it. I like having double hitters on Monday night. It gives you an option. Whether you want to see a West Coast game or East Coast game, it's still an option. Now, can the selections be better? Yeah. But you got Chicago versus Minnesota. And we'll talk about Atlanta and the Raiders in a minute. But Chicago goes to Minnesota. Last time they played, I believe Minnesota won 30-27. And here's another stat. And it's not Caleb Williams' fault. Last 340 some odd passes, Caleb Williams has not thrown an interception. Now, he's been sacked a crap ton of times, but he has not thrown an interception compared to the amount of touchdowns he's thrown. His time management is awful. It's awful. But I put that on the coaches. DJ Moore, again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about fantasy playoffs. So if you're not in your fantasy playoffs, I don't know why you want to comment or why you want to listen, but hey, you want to get some knowledge. I got it. You on the outside looking in so you can get in next year? I got you. I'm going to give it to you. Sam Darnold. If he does not win comeback player of the year, let me see what their record is. They are 11-2. They're going to be 12-2 after this game. 11-2. With Aaron Jones fumbling the ball from time to time. He didn't fumble last week, but he fumbled from time to time. Jordan Addison is looking like that number 2, that 1B. He's looking like a 1B. Justin Jefferson gets a touchdown. He got, 3 touchdowns, actually, after not having 1 touchdown in 2 months. But yet, I want you to listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Jefferson didn't catch a touchdown in over 2 months, and the Minnesota Vikings are 11-2. And their tight end was out for half the season. They play in the NFC North. I'm not a big believer in Sam Darnold, but I do believe in his coach. Mr. Taylor said something about it during the summer, I believe, that he believes in O'Connell. O'Connell is legit. The system is the exact system Sam Darnold did in college. That got him the Heisman. That got him the number 1 overall pick. Now, he's thrown a few interceptions, but he is cooking with grease. Now he has a full complement of offensive players. strong running back that can run and catch the ball out of the backfield, a dynamic tight end, TJ Hawkinson, 2 stud wide receivers, a decent offensive line, and guess what? Here's the kicker. That defense is on point for the nation. Go Army, beat Navy. It's over. Listen, they're not going to win the division, but if they were in any other division in the NFC, because they played most of the NFC teams and they've beaten them, they beat some big ones too. They will be easily number 2, number 3 seed. But Detroit has only lost 1 game. Enter the Chicago Bears with all the weapons in the world. And they're 4-9. 4-9. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dudenzier, and now there's a chance that DeAndre Swift might not play. He's questionable. I expect this to be a fantasy-rich game for you and your fantasy playoff. Think about it. Think about it. Every player I mentioned is on your roster or somebody's roster. They have a huge impact, and I think this is going to be one of those games where the numbers are going to prove out. And to answer Tony's question about Sam Darnold, what did he have to come back from? Well, several things. One, he's been labeled a legit bust. A legit bust. 4 different teams in the past 2 years. Perennial backup after being a starter. Completely washed. But he comes in and takes a team to an 11-2. Even if they win 1 more game, which they're going to win probably 2 or 3 more games, he has come back from being a complete flameout. You know what? I'll put it this, just like you and your record. If you come back next year and you have a good record, you won't be a bust. But this year, you're only like 3-11. So you're a bust, Tony. You're a bust. But next year, if you flip that, you're not a bust. That's the same thing with Hoss. Last year, Hoss was like 11-3, 12-4, wins the championship. This year, 2-12. That's what I mean by Sam Darnold should win comeback player of the year. I already told you what he did. You are 11-2 without getting your best player in the end zone for 2 months. You are 11-2 without having the best player on your team be the biggest contributor on your team. If that's not, and what did they do last year? They gave Joe Flacco the comeback player of the year after coming off the couch and winning like 5 games. So if you're telling me that Sam Darnold can't win because he ain't did nothing, I got to question you. I got Minnesota in this game. But again, this is fantasy richness for your playoff, in my opinion, Mr. Taylor.
Wow. Anyway, Tony, I've heard 8 different comments from you, but he only published 1, which is fine. Regardless of your record, I'm not discounting your voice, unlike some people, okay? I hear everything you say, and I can agree or disagree without discounting what you say. That has to go with this Minnesota and Chicago game. I like Minnesota to win the game.
All right. Moving on. Last game. And no one's, you know what? I'm gonna address it. No one's discounting.
Oh, yes, you will.
What no one is discounting what he says. He asked a question. He asked a question.
You said
he says, "What
said.
is he coming back from?" That is his question. I gave him the parameters as to why I said he was coming back.
What about the last
So
8
therefore,
comments? What about the last 8 comments?
I don't need to post that.
Okay.
I don't need to.
Okay.
He asked a question. I answered the question. If he would have asked a question, maybe I would have addressed it. But all he did was make comments.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You
now last game, Atlanta at the is it at the Raiders? Dang, I closed it out. I think it's at the Raiders. Look, and this is the antithesis of Sam Darnold. Kirk Cousins literally could have got comeback player of the year had he not faltered towards the end. He tore his ACL. Achilles, thank you, last year. He was leading in the votes for it first half of the season. In the last 4 games, he has 8 interceptions and 0 touchdowns. His team went from first in their division to second and quite possibly missing the playoffs. But, this is important to understand. He was not expected to be that good this year at the beginning of the year because he's come back off the injury. And in the beginning of the year, he wasn't. Drake London was not getting what he was supposed to the first 3 games of the season. Robinson was not utilized completely well. Kyle Pitts, I still have no idea why Kyle Pitts is not featured in that offense. I have no clue.
Can't catch a cold.
None.
Can't catch a cold.
Well, I don't know. But they were winning despite all of that. And here's where I'm taking a chance. Like I told you guys earlier, I stacked my team with Atlanta Falcons because I felt Atlanta had one of the most potent offenses in one of the weakest divisions in football. I expected Kirk Cousins to go out there and light it up. And for half a season, he did. For the last 4 games, he is 0-for-8 or 0-8. 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. They get healthy this week. They're playing the Las Vegas Raiders, who have a quarterback who still has an issue with his thumb. I think he had a slight concussion or something like that. But I love their young running back, McCormick. I believe Amir Abdullah's back this week. Not sure. But McCormick should, in my opinion, McCormick should be the number 1 running back, especially going into next year. Zamir White, flamed out. Don't know what happened to him. Matson never was, never will be a number 1 running back. Won't be. Either Matson's coming back or Abdullah. One of them's coming back. But McCormick should be the running back. Spallone, he needs help. Max Crosby needs help. Those are the only 2 defensive players on the Raiders that make any contribution, fantasy-wise and in real life. The Raiders have not won a game since September. Atlanta has not won a game in 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. Let me put this up there. Atlanta has mismanaged their talent and will regret it as they will be heavy trade buyers. So I don't think they're going to be heavy trade buyers. But let me finish with this, and I think that's an interesting comment. Mr. Taylor did something, and I mentioned it last week. I thought it was very smart. And I think I know why, but I don't know why he would have to say it. He doesn't, or he didn't say anything last week. But Michael Penix Jr., if Kirk Cousins struggles and they lose this game, I expect Michael Penix Jr. to start the last 2 games of the season, or last 3 games of the season, because that'll be a game and a half behind Tampa. Atlanta owns the tiebreaker with Tampa. Understand that. But they need Tampa to lose, and they need to win in order to get that spot back. If Kirk Cousins messes up again this week, not only will I be eliminated from the playoffs versus Mr. Taylor, but I don't care how much money they give him. I don't care how much is guaranteed. He's going to be the highest paid backup to finish the season. Now, will there be a competition next year? I don't know. I doubt it, because they paid him 3 years fully guaranteed. I don't know. But to me, this game is going to come down to the ability of Kirk Cousins and that offense exploiting the very weak run defense of the Raiders, which means Bijan Robinson should have a hell of a game, and the height advantage they have at wide receiver and tight end. Darnell Mooney has speed, but I don't know what's going to happen with Darnell Mooney. And I'll give Mr. Taylor credit. Before the season started, he said Darnell Mooney was going to be a big player and a keeper to have. And I give him credit for that. He was right. He's also been the reason why they lost a couple games, because he dropped the ball. But overall, Darnell Mooney is somebody you want to play in your fantasy playoff game this week. He is going to absolutely roast that Raiders secondary. I would put money on it. If he's playing, I put $1,000 down right now. Darnell Mooney gets a touchdown. But outside of that, I can't tell you. Carson might not even get an opportunity to kick a field goal. That's how anemic this Raiders offense is. But McCormick, he's going to get you touches. He's going to get you yards. I don't know if he's going to get you in the end zone, but he's going to produce something. He'll produce something for you. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Tony, for all your posts, even though they didn't get posted. Okay. Even though some had question marks, some of them didn't. Remember, he said you got to have a question mark behind it. So anything you post, have a question mark behind it, and he can't say, well, he didn't have a question. Okay? Just remember that. Just remember that. He had almost 10 posts, and you only posted what you wanted to post. Okay?
Hold on. Whose show is this? I don't have to post what you want me to post.
Well, you just said.
And he didn't have question marks, but for one other that had nothing to do with what we're talking about.
That's why I said
I don't have to post what I don't want to post.
Anyway, I like the Atlanta Falcons over the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay. Jesus. Just because somebody's supporting you, you want post it.
It doesn't have to do that, because the fact I post everything, and when I do my show, I post everything.
That's great.
I don't care if they don't post, they don't like what I say.
That has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with me. Don't impose what you do on what I do.
Totally transparent.
Again, don't impose what you do versus what I do. You're not fully transparent. Let's keep it that way, because Chris asked you a couple questions a couple times and you said nothing. I asked you a couple questions. You said nothing. You are not transparent. So don't even put that out there.
I'm totally transparent.
Again, don't put what you do on me. Thank you.
No problem, Tony.
All
I
right.
understand what you're saying.
Vic's a hater. No, I don't feel as though. See, here we go. Here we go. Listen, I've never said Kyler. I'm gonna put this up only because Tony wants to attack me. He wants to attack me, and his Michigan Wolverines won one meaningful game this year. One meaningful game. Bring me on, Vic. I got some questions. I don't give a damn what you got. I've never said Kyler Murray is the next coming of Joe Montana. I've never said Kyler Murray was the best thing since sliced bread. What I said was Kyler Murray isn't a bum. Baker Mayfield isn't a bum. And right now, in the past couple seasons, both players have been doing rather well. I can't help it if some people have biases and some people are stuck in their ways because they don't get it. They don't get it, but it's okay. I dealt with people like that all the time. In my new line of work, I'm learning a lot, by the way. There's open dialogue. Open dialogue. No one accuses the other of this or some things that people do. But Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray are good quarterbacks. The numbers don't lie. Numbers do not lie.
Well, let me ask
People
you this.
do. People lie.
Let me ask you this.
Wait a minute. Let me close this up, and then you can ask the question.
Yes.
With that being said,
yes,
you have a fantasy football rich playoff weekend ahead of you guys. I encourage you to look at your teams, look at your matchups. I did something for the first time. I haven't done it meaningfully until this year, which was stack. This year, sometimes it bit me in the butt, sometimes it didn't. But the main focus of it is getting to the playoffs. If you get in the playoffs, everybody's 0-0. Everybody's 0-0. Week 14, or I'll say this, week 13 through 15 are probably the most important weeks of your fantasy season if you're in contention. You got to be in contention. That's the key. Make sure that if you are in contention, you follow the trend, the pattern, and try to stack. At least that's what I feel was good. Now, again, I finished the season on a sour note, but I'm still in the playoffs. And I plan to flip the switch and go on a run. Hopefully it happens. Now, Tony says, you believe it and preach it. Aren't they considered? Okay. I'm going to answer this question in this manner. Draft positions are highly important. Highly important. Baker was number one. Kyler was number one. Baker's been to the playoffs. Kyler's trying to get to the playoffs. Baker has had several coaches, but he also came in with a little attitude. So he ran himself out of Cleveland. But he's proven to be a reliable and good quarterback for the teams he's played on. Took Tampa Bay to a division title last year, into a playoff game. That's not being a bust. Kyler, I will venture to say, especially now that I have Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator in Washington, that was a 50-50 thing. Kingsbury did not do a very good job developing Kyler, but Kyler didn't do a very good job of seeking the support he needed from that staff to be a very good quarterback. I was worried when the defensive coordinator from the Colts got the job in Arizona. I thought the offensive coordinator, was it from the Colts? I forget where he came from, wherever. It wasn't the Colts. It was Philly. Somewhere he came from. I want the offensive coordinator that's in Indy to go to Arizona because he knows how to develop a quarterback. He's got a tough road to hoe with Richardson. But the defensive coordinator here in Arizona, he plays complementary football. He does not let the offensive coordinator call too many passes for Kyler frequently. Kyler has shown, and for like most of the season, because Arizona's led the division for like a month and a half, the only team to do that all season, and still in contention to win the division, that he can be a very, very good quarterback. Just not a good quarterback, but a very, very good quarterback. The Trevor Lawrence piece. I told you all, and I can bring up the video from the show that I did with the draft. When I said he's called Sunshine, he throws 50-50 balls. His receivers make him look good. He is not a good quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is not a good quarterback, in my opinion. He never was. But he had the look, he had the height, and most importantly, in college, look who he's throwing the ball to. They made him look good. Look who his running back was. They made him look good. He went to the national championship back to back. So it made him look good. I don't believe Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. I think he's a bust, but he just got paid. And they're stuck with him for at least 3 to 4 years. They can't build around him. The offensive line definitely needs to be fixed there. But that hurts Travis Etienne. It will hurt Brian Robinson Jr. Not Brian Robinson Jr. Is his name Brian Robinson? Brian Thomas Jr. Eventually. You don't trade for, even though it's a light draft pick, like really late, a former number 3 overall pick as your backup to your former number 1 overall pick if you don't think your number 1 overall pick might not be that good. That's all I'm saying on that. Your thoughts on it, Mr. Taylor?
I agree with what Tony just said. Number one, all picks are supposed to turn a bad team around. None of them have done it. Mayfield's playing with a team that won a Super Bowl. He doesn't add to the team. He complements it, but doesn't improve it.
Wow. Okay. So the year, and he's not playing with a Super Bowl team. Let's clarify that, because Tom Brady won a Super Bowl, came back, and they were subpar. They didn't go over 9 wins that year.
But that basically
no, it's not basically, because no team is the same from year to year. You know that. No team is the same team from year to year. So you can't say 2 years removed from the Super Bowl, he had a Super Bowl team, because he didn't. Shaq Barrett was already gone. You had other players already gone. It's not the same Super Bowl team from 2 years ago. Gronk, not there. So to say that is wildly inaccurate. Even the coaches weren't the same. So you can say that all you want. It doesn't make it true. The truth is, no NFL team, not one, was the same as the previous year. Not one. Key players were gone. Baker got them a division title, where Tom Brady only got them 9 wins the previous year. So, again, your opinion is your opinion. You, Tony, or you, Jerry, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to say you gave me a Super Bowl team, you got to say that about Tom Brady the following year after the Super Bowl when they were terrible. And you didn't say nothing about Tom Brady. So, hey, it is what it is. But go ahead and say your thing. I got to answer the door. Somebody's at my front door.
All right, people. Tony, in essence, I'm not going to go back and forth. In essence, I agree with what you said. The roster from the Super Bowl team, especially the offense, was the same. They did have problems on the offensive line the last year in Tom Brady's era, and also Gronk was hurt the next year for most of the year. So it is what it is. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, you're right. You're right about that. Okay. No problem.
All right. I don't know what you just said he's right about, but he says we aren't talking about Brady, we're talking about Mayfield. Again, if you're going to talk about Mayfield, any logical person, anybody with an astute acumen that's going to claim a Super Bowl team was given to a quarterback, you have got to put both of them in the same position. Brady was the quarterback of that Super Bowl winning team that did terrible the following year. So Baker gets the team 2 years removed, because the Super Bowl year, then the following year, that'll be 2 years, right? And it's not the same. It's just not the same. Todd Bowles, yes, he was the head football coach. Yes. Bunting Murphy, no longer a cornerback there, right? Leonard Floyd, no longer running back there. Gronk, no longer a tight end there. We're talking about key positions that won the Super Bowl for them. Not on the same team that Baker Mayfield got. I'll put it in a way maybe you'll understand better, Tony. How did Michigan do this year? Without McCarthy, without Corum, without Harbaugh, without that defense. That was a championship winning team with a new quarterback. I'm just saying. You can and you have. Let me put it this way. If you're going to have an opinion like that, cool. But understand that you're comparing apples to oranges. If you want to say Baker Mayfield's team in Cleveland versus Baker Mayfield's team in Tampa, okay. We had that discussion. Because he had Odell Beckham Jr. He had Amari Cooper, who I already told you I don't like. He had Nick Chubb and a stellar defense. That comparison to the first year in Tampa Bay, he had arguably similar defenses. Running back was less than Nick Chubb. Mike Evans, in my opinion, is better than Odell Beckham. Godwin, in my opinion, is heads and shoulders above Amari Cooper. Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Njoku like that? That was his first year in the NFL or second year or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Cade Otton, that was his first year, no, his second year in the NFL when Baker came. You can compare those to each other. How he did get a division title. No, he didn't. He took Cleveland to the playoffs that year, his second year. He won a division title in Tampa Bay his first year, which was last year. I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Taylor. Would you or would you not say, because he played injured when he shouldn't have played injured. No excuses. He shouldn't have played, in my opinion, but he did. His attitude and the result of that season is what got him out of Cleveland. Is that about right?
He had an attitude going into the NFL. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. But the attitude that carried over after year 3, because he thought I'm hot shit, because I just took us to the playoffs since not going to the playoffs in 20 years. No, not in 20. Yeah. Cleveland had not been in the playoffs in over 20 years. And this bust gets him there year 2. His attitude played more into that, and him playing with a separated labrum and something else in his non-throwing shoulder got him out of Cleveland. Not because he's a bust. I mean, y'all can say what y'all want, but the truth is the truth. And comparing them is crazy, man. Crazy. But again, people think differently. They think wildly different. I'm just saying, because the question was, do I think Baker and Kyler are a bust and Trevor Lawrence? Lawrence, yes. Kyler and Baker, no. Proof is in the pudding. Kyler is what, year 4? No. Year 5, because they got the extension before he hit year 5. Kyler does need to prove that he can lead the team to a division title, but I don't know. He has a little bit of that attitude too. But he's shown this year that it can be done, and he still has an opportunity to do it. If they win out and the Rams lose one game, they win a division. All right. I've gone way over time. Your thoughts on that, Mr. Taylor?
If you were an NFL owner or GM, would you draft Mayfield or Murray? Would you take them later round other than the first round?
Okay. I didn't ask that question, but that's the question that's in there. Go ahead.
I just asked the question. Just like Tony, I just asked that question. Would you draft him in the first round or later? If it was Baker Mayfield or Murray. So
I asked your opinion on whether they were bust or not that question. So
basically, yes. I think they're bust. Okay. I mean, they're adequate starting quarterbacks, but they're not first round talent. First pick, first round talent. They're not. They're adequate quarterbacks, but they're not first pick in the draft type of quarterback. First pick in the draft is like Joe Burrow. I know he has a losing record, but what did Joe Burrow do when he was the first pick? He took his team to the Super Bowl. Hello. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. Neither one of these teams did that. Neither one of these teams did that.
No, but I'll put it this way. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, all you got to do is look at the numbers during that season. Burrow was a good contributor, but the biggest catalyst was Joe Mixon. It was Joe Mixon.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me
and
Joe Burrow was
that year, yeah, you know why? Because what happened the first year of Joe Burrow?
He got hurt.
No. Yeah, he got hurt. But he did nothing. So, according to you, if you don't finish the season and you get hurt, you're a bust.
You're a bust. Exactly. But,
okay.
but again, he turned that around.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
Yeah,
not even close.
Again,
not even close to Baker.
Not
even close to Baker or Kyler. Not even close.
So you telling me?
Not even close.
That's fine. That is your opinion. But I would say, just me, Cincinnati hadn't been to the playoffs in quite some time. I think it was like since Carson Palmer. So that wasn't 20 years.
Took them to the Super Bowl.
They hadn't been to the Super Bowl since Montana and the Bengals. So that's over 20 years.
And he took them to the Super Bowl. And
it was on the strength of
AFC
Joe
Championship.
Mixon. Now, you have a franchise that hadn't seen the playoffs since the 80s or early 90s.
Well, didn't you just tell me every team's
early
different?
90s.
Come on, man, stop.
And
you
get
tell me
there,
every team's different?
It's again, like I was saying, your version of what a bust is between Murray and Mayfield, if you compare them, if you want to compare Mayfield's time in Cleveland, first 2 years in Cleveland versus Burrow's first 2 years in Cincinnati, that's fair. They went out and got his running mate, Jamar Chase. They already had T. Higgins. They already had Tyler Boyd. They already had Joe Mixon. But the offensive line was trash. And that year, Joe Burrow was, I believe, 8th or 9th in passing. Joe Mixon was a top 5 running back with that crappy line. And the defense was a top 10 defense.
And if I'm not mistaken, Joe Burrow was one of the top quarterbacks sacked that year. And
he was. I said the offensive line was crappy.
And he still outperformed that.
And year 2, Baker Mayfield takes his team to the playoffs. We ain't been there since the early 90s, or even late 80s, whatever it was.
Playoffs and AFC championship and the Super Bowl.
However, to label him a bust because he didn't get to the Super Bowl by year 2, like Joe Burrow, but he goes to the playoffs
once.
Unlike he's been to the playoffs more than once, but he took Cleveland to playoffs once. That's fine. But a guy that takes his team to the playoffs that ain't been there in almost 30 years.
Well, let me ask
you. And you call him a bust. That is your opinion. You are entitled to it. But again,
let me ask you.
I don't feel as though
let me ask you this question. Has Joe Burrow was Joe Burrow worth a first round pick versus Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield? Has Joe Burrow done more? It's considered a legit first pick in the first round over Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. There is not even close. It's not even
I mean, I
close.
asked you a question. You're answering your own question. Which one is it? You ask me a question, or you want to answer your own question?
I'm asking you this question.
Okay. Well, by you saying it's not even close, it sounds like you're answering.
Did Joe Burrow justify him being a first pick in the first round versus Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield?
I believe all three.
Oh my God! Wow!
Excuse me.
My God! No problem. That's your opinion. No problem.
Each person justified being the first overall pick in each round. I mean, in each draft, based upon their body of work.
No, come on, man.
That got them there. Now, if you're asking, because you didn't ask the question in a way that would talk about their NFL career, you asked about them getting justified being picked number one. Okay. In college, there was a reason why they were picked number one overall. If you want to compare their careers, the only one that has justified being a first round pick, not the first overall pick, but the first round pick, all of their career to this point is Lamar Jackson.
I ain't talking about no. I didn't bring Lamar Jackson.
I know you didn't, but you also didn't bring up. You also didn't bring up.
Oh my God!
You asked the right question.
Come on.
You asked the wrong question.
No, I specifically
asked. The question is
quarterbacks. I specifically asked about.
Yeah, and you asked, did they get justified being number one? And they did. Based upon their college career.
I said first pick. First, I said, and I was specific. First pick in the first round, and each one of those quarterbacks was the first pick in the first round. Did they justify that pick in the first round? We're not.
They did. Again, they did. They were better than their competitors during their college careers to be selected in the first round, number one.
I said based over
their
careers,
based off
right?
of nothing.
Oh my wow. Okay,
you said based off of nothing.
Yeah, okay. You just framed it the way you
I
was very specific. I was very specific. Stop.
Based upon their current careers, my answer remains yes. I say yes because one,
okay.
Baker has proven with the right guidance, he can be effective. He can be effective.
Come on, man.
Kyler Murray.
Stop. They're not even in the same plane.
Guy. Either you're gonna let me answer the question or you just gonna keep talking. Which one are you gonna do?
Forget it.
Well,
Don't worry about it.
I'll answer it because I have it on my mind.
Don't worry about it.
So when you look at what they've done in their careers, Baker Mayfield has proven with the proper guidance, he can be a very, very, I would say he's better than most first overall picks. If you look at history, he is actually better than a great deal of the first overall picks in history.
I just named
when you look at Kyler Murray, when he was picked, based off his current career, he hasn't proven just yet that he is the best or the number one overall pick, but he's trending in that direction. The reason why I say trending is because I still see some things with him that he can improve upon. Whereas with Baker, he's become one of the best first overall picks. Because when you look at freaking, I was trying to think of like, I forgot, Achilles Smith. He wasn't the first overall pick, but that draft class, all them cats, the first overall pick, and all those quarterbacks in that draft class, way better than any of them. I would say you have a great deal of
here we just going around the corner
ability of ability that's getting tapped into on all three. And if they don't fix the issues with the line in Cincinnati, Burrow's going to be injured again. Being what, 4-9 or whatever they are, 4-9. I don't care how many numbers he's thrown up. You're losing. You lost with all those pieces, except Joe Mixon. And by the way, quarterbacks are based upon wins and losses. And if you look at the wins and losses for Baker versus the wins and losses for Burrow, Burrow ain't got nowhere near as many wins as Baker. So if you want to call Baker a bust, that's fine. But quarterbacks are based upon wins and losses. Baker has more than Burrow. So that by that logic, not because he threw for 4,000 yards. What? Who cares? Did you win? Did you lose? You lost. Marino threw for tons of yards, but they also won. They didn't go to the championship, but one time with him. One time.
And he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So
again,
since you went that route, I'm gonna go this way. Who had the better chance of getting to the Hall of Fame? Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield?
That's not even a
you just brought up Marino. Come on, man, stop.
No. What I said again, you are so far gone. I said Marino threw for a ton of yards.
Yes, he did.
A ton of touchdowns.
Yes, he did.
Went to the Super Bowl one time.
Yes, he did. Joe has Burrow.
But he won a lot of games. And what I'm telling you again, because you're not listening, I don't care how many yards and touchdowns Burrow has thrown for if he does not have the wins to support it. Baker, less touchdowns, less yards, but he has the wins over Joe Burrow. So you can say a bust is somebody that didn't throw for 4,000 yards a year or didn't get 35 touchdowns a year. But that don't matter when you're talking about wins and losses. Wins and losses is the only thing that matters for a quarterback. Wins and losses. Because if we're talking about numbers only, there are a shit ton of quarterbacks that ain't in the Hall of Fame. They got big numbers. But again, I digress. You and Tony can continue your frivolous argument that Baker's a bust and Kyler's a bust when the numbers don't show that. And it's a bias you guys have, which is fine. It's just not based on fact, which is the problem. So when you start talking about stuff that's based on fact, we can readdress the subject matter. Right now, it's not factual, not needed. Because again, if that's the case, Jameis Winston has better numbers than freaking Joe Burrow. And we know Jameis Winston ain't better than Burrow. That's ridiculous. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I want to thank the comments that Tony put in the chat. He put a lot of comments in there. Chris Eder for being in there. Appreciate you. Also, Mr. Taylor for showing up. Again, what's next week? Well, no, that's Christmas weekend. It's not Christmas. What is today? 14th? 21st? Okay. So next week, It's going to be as the playoffs turn. I'll let you know what happened between myself and Mr. Taylor. I begin the playoffs in several other leagues because I think this and one other league are the only two leagues I don't have a buy-in. But we'll see. Excuse me. I don't got to buy in that sleeper league, but I'm playing for the opportunity to win the championship in there. I didn't finish last, so I'm happy about that. I didn't know how that was going to turn out. It's a different.
Well,
It's a different thing. I like it, but it's going to take some getting used to for others when I do open up that league. But that's next week. Whatever happens in the NFL, and I'm quite sure something's going to happen in the NFL. It always does. Every week. I didn't get to what I wanted to talk to you about. It's okay. I want to talk about Antonio Pierce, but it is what it is. Yeah. That's it, y'all. I appreciate you. This is 2 hours and 46 minutes. Should only been like an hour and some change. With that being said, appreciate y'all, and we will hopefully see you next week.
Fantasy, sports, and politics. Get ready to rumble! You want to talk smack? You in the right place. So take a step back before I get all up in your
Remember, because I don't remember. I remember every bit of this.
You're the dudes holding on the phone line. Your voice will be heard, sir.
Next caller, please.
Eric's gonna get him.
Fantasy, sports, and politics. Fantasy, sports, and politics. Fantasy, sports, and politics. Fantasy, sports, and politics.
Listeners are asking questions about this week's games, not Jerry's personal beef. So what's your thought?